right now, if you're looking at the writing on the wall, we kind of briefly touched on it earlier when talking about Malkin's injury. I think the Penguins could use a second-line center next year. I'm just not sure about Evgeni Malkin. Whenever he signed that 4-year extension, the biggest question was, well, if he can stay healthy, we think he'll be good. This injury, fortunate that it's not more severe, but a knee injury at 38, do we expect him to be able to bounce back the rest of the season and get to the highest level? He wasn't at his highest level when he went out, right? 10 points in his last 20 games. That's a 40-point pace over 82 for Evgeni Malkin. That is far below the expectation that's been set over the last decade plus. Injuries piling up potentially. On pace for 56 points in 77 games, which is a 10-point deduction from the year before. And he's going to be 39 years old next year. I think that the time has come, and the time has probably passed, to start looking for a second-line center. And if Dylan Cousins falls in your lap, it might just be an option to say, hey, G, you can move to wing. It's probably going to do you better in your last season.
No kidding. At least do him better in his last season. Even if it's first-line wing with Crosby, maybe.
I mean, if you end up trading Raquel and don't replace him like you didn't replace Gensel, then what else are you going to do?
Yeah, no kidding. In reality, the time to grab another center would have been when they signed Malkin to the extension. Find another one that can be the third-line center that has the ability to move up to second if need be. And they just haven't done that. This time around, when you're going into your just continuing to age, it's time to find someone young who's ready to take the reins moving forward. Not only that, you mentioned the injuries piling up. For what it's worth, I mean, the last 2 full seasons of Evgeni Malkin, while it was good to see him so healthy, admittedly, he still wasn't at the top of his game. It was just age, though. It was more of a age decline. He's doing what he can with the amount of years he's already played. And they weren't terrible years. You're not totally disappointed in them, but you knew going in he wasn't the same horse that he used to be, and he still stole games every now and again. But it just wasn't the same Evgeni Malkin, and you were still playing him at second-line center. To be brutally honest, it wasn't good enough for second-line center. That's all there is to it. At least definitely this year.
I think the last 2 years has been fine.
They've been fine, and I think it's... Well, the issue is that you're looking at it, that we are looking at it now with this 2020 hindsight of, they were fine, missed the playoffs.
Well, yes.
Could have used someone who, or at least maybe not as second-line center, but finding other faces to help produce more, to help Malkin produce more. Let's imagine we had Michael Bunting all of last season. Probably a different outcome. But that being said, it's going to be time to find a new second-line center, whether it is moving Malkin to third or a wing. It's time to find that young replacement who will take over the position down the line. If that's Cousins, it's Cousins. If it's someone else, it's someone else. But it's about that time to make that decision, even if it's over the summer, because not sure what you're doing this season. Really not.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're fitting in $7.1 million for Dylan Cousins, and there's not going to be retention on a 5-year deal remaining unless you work something out and get rid of one of your big contracts. But again, I'm not sure Buffalo is going to be willing to do that. I know that they run themselves not great, but I don't think they're going to run that poorly to where they're going to say, we like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, but we want to trade Cousins, so let's get Tristan Jarry's contract. Like that, it doesn't track. It's not going to happen. I will push back on one thing though. 2 years ago, first year of the contract, Evgeni Malkin, one of the best second-line centers in the league. Last year, still among the top 10 centers in the league when you look at second-line centers. I went through that entire exercise late last season. He still finished production-wise as one of the best second-line centers in the league. This is the first year that you look at and you say, okay, the valleys are lasting a little too long. The peaks are a little bit too short. And that's why I'm starting to wholesale come to the kind of conclusion of he needs to be moved for next year, especially if he's going to be dealing with a knee injury. Hopefully this is nothing that lingers, but this is a guy that has gone through several major reconstructive knee surgeries throughout his career. This is a guy who we've talked about a couple of years ago, had surgery in his elbow and is going to need surgery in his elbow at the end of his career, but he's pushing it off so he can continue to play. This is a guy that's banged up and he's 39 years old. If the valleys continue to extend, then you're going to need to do something to try to get more out of him. And that's moving him to wing. The Penguins don't have an option right now at center that can come in and step in for him. Cody Glass looked all right yesterday, but he's not a second line center for a good team in the National Hockey League, at least not right now. Kevin Hayes is not a second line center. He is a decent third line center right now, but he's not a second line center. Blake Lizotte caps out at a third line center. There's just nobody that can step into that role in the organization. And I think maybe not the rest of this season, because as we talked about, the rest of this season might be well and done in a moot point. But for next year, if you're trying to give them a chance in what is likely and expectedly Evgeni Malkin's last season, the best thing that you need to do is bring in a second line center. And I don't think they're going to shell out everything for a veteran at the age of 30 or at the age of 31. I think if they're going to do it, it's going to look like a guy like Dylan Cozens.